So now the Riptide are going to take the at-bats in the bottom of the first. They're going to face Hayden Jorgensen. Jorgensen has sort of been a tale of two seasons for him. He's pitched 27 in the third, and it seems like every other appearance he does well. He started off the season against the Palm Springs Power, gave up 6 earned runs, then only 1 earned run against the Foresters, then 6 against the Halos, then 1 against the Legends, and then 2 very good, and then a good start against the Riptide, where he went, or it wasn't a start, an appearance against the Riptide where he went an inning, didn't allow anybody to get on base, and struck out 2. So maybe that's what head coach Anthony Chevrier is looking at, expecting more of the same against this Riptide lineup. First pitch to Shaw, or the 0-1 was grounded to the right side of first base, foul, and that was very close. Shaw, good speed. He's done very well in this series. Scored a run yesterday. Texas Tech from Texas. He's a Longhorn. First time he's been in the leadoff spot all season. Normally Joey Parente fills that role, but Joey Parente not in the lineup today. Gets the day off. Even an all-star needs a day off every now and then. The 0-2, outside corner with the fastball. He struck him out, got him looking. So Shaw goes down on 3 pitches, and that's not a good omen to start off a game. However, I do like to mention that the first time through the lineup is always the toughest for both teams and don't really know the pitcher well. He's only pitched 1 inning against the Riptide. So, things could be worse. First pitch to Greenfield, breaking ball grounded to the shortstop who has it. Moving just to the left of second base, he makes the hard throw on the first to retire Greenfield, 2 gone. Let's take a look at the defensive lineup for the SoCal Catch. From left to right, Graham Robbins, Nate Pacoda's in center, and Anthony Seminaris is in right. He was in left in the first game of the series. At the hot corner is Omar Ortiz, replacing Jonathan Dukoff. Dukoff is on the bench today. On the other side, Tyler Fisher, who was behind the plate in the first game of the series, now over at first. The 2 middle infielders, Toby Johnson and Shea Whitcomb. Behind the plate is Kyle Soria. He'll be in the squat, putting down the signs of Hayden Jorgensen, who just threw a fastball on the outside corner, 0-1 to Dominic Fletcher. Fletcher, he's been tied for the league lead in home runs for a while now. Here he lines this one right back up the middle, a base hit. So that puts a man on with 2 gone. First hit of the ball game for either club. So Jake Polshin, the first baseman, the cleanup man as he has been for most of the season. It's been sort of a roulette of appearances in the lineup for Jake Polshin. We've seen him in the 3-spot, 4-spot, 5-spot, 6-spot, even the 7-spot. During his early season struggles, he was batting as low as 7. Since then, whenever David Miranda or Dominic Fletcher is out of the lineup, he seems to be in the cleanup spot. And then during the peak of his ability, when he was on a really strong, actually the longest hit streak for anybody on the Riptide all season, when he went 11 games. During that stretch, he did bat third twice. Here in the cleanup spot, 1-1 the count. Pickoff attempt trying to get Fletcher. Fletcher has 5 steals on the year. Jorgensen goes to Azusa Pacific. And something I saw about him was, well, there goes Fletcher. The throw down to second is in time. That is going to get him. I'll tell you that story about Jorgensen when the next inning comes up. So they get a man on, but he gets thrown out at second. And they'll have 4, 5, 6 next time up, which is a good part, meat of the order. But for now, we head to the top of the second. Still a scoreless ball game at the University of Concordia Irvine on the Orange County Riptide Network. I'm Michael Hofling. Stay tuned. Top of the second here. The Riptide find themselves in a scoreless ball game. Only one inning through, though. It's going to be the cleanup man, Evan Sandman, DHing today. We've seen him in right. We've seen him in left. We've seen him at the All-Star game, now in the cleanup spot and on the bench. A lot of people say that the DH is actually one of the toughest spots to play in baseball. I remember reading an interview with Frank Thomas, famous first baseman, designated hitter for the White Sox and the A's a couple of years ago, and he said being DH was so much worse than being a first baseman because just sitting there, knowing you don't have to do anything, you sort of get bored and you sort of lose focus of the game while you're sitting on the bench. 1-1 is the count to Sandman. Swung on and missed the high heater just below the letters. 1-2. Cortina in his 3 appearances with the Riptide. His last appearance was his worst outing when he started against the San Luis Obispo Blues. He got the win, but that was a very close game throughout, and that was on the 10th. Final 4-3, he gave up 2 runs across 5 1/3. First earned runs he'd given up all year. Cortina currently goes to St. Edward's University. Actually spent 2 years at Sam Houston State. Actually took a year off between 2013 and 2015 when he went to Sam Houston State. In 2014, he went to Alvin Community College, where he made 5 appearances and finished with a 1.64 ERA. The 1-2 is swung on and missed by Sandman. First strikeout for Cortina. Cortina does have strikeout stuff. Didn't get any in the first, but gets the first man in the second to swing and miss. It's going to bring up the third baseman, Omar Ortiz. Ortiz on the year. He's hitting .307, one of the few catch players hitting above that 300 mark. A lot of people thought he might be an all-star. Didn't get the nod. First pitch he sees is a fastball, swung on and missed 0-1. Cortina really working that fastball right now. And it is his most effective pitch. The 0-1 is swung on and missed. Another fastball, this one a little bit lower, maybe even below the zone. 0-2 now. He has 2 home runs and 9 doubles. That's a lot of extra base hits. He's actually near the top of the team in terms of RBI. In fact, he's second, only behind Steven Garrett. And Garrett, of course, an all-star. Did well in the all-star game. No hits, but did walk twice. Swung on and missed, but it gets away from Cooper Ewell behind the plate. He'll toss on down to first. And the drop third strike does not cause any harm. Second straight strikeout for Cortina. Ortiz goes down. So Seminaris, the right fielder, he's going to step up to the plate. Seminaris batted second in the first game of the series. First pitch he sees is fouled straight back, 0-1. Seminaris actually, he's dangerous out there in the field. He's got good speed, has a little bit of trouble reading fly balls, but what makes him so dangerous is his strong arm. And it's pretty strong, but it's very, very accurate. He's in right field. Like a lot of the time, coaches want to put their strongest arm in right field because of throws that they need to make to third base or second base from the corner. And that's why he's usually out there. Here's a shallow fly ball out in the right field. Jackson Williams, the second baseman, moves out halfway between the grass and the right fielder, Shaw, and makes the catch for the final out. So it's been 6 up, 6 down for Juan Cortina. We head to the bottom of the second. The Riptide looking to go ahead in this one. We'll be right back on the Orange County Riptide Network. Stay tuned. So Jake Polshin, he's going to step back up to the plate, this time with a fresh count. There were 2 outs, now 4-5-6. Polshin not batting with anybody on base this time. First pitch he sees, fastball hits the outside corner, 0-1. Polshin, Houston Baptist University, teammate of Jonathan Dukoff, the two of them good friends. Here's a hard line drive into the 56 hole on the left side of the infield, past the diving third baseman Ortiz, and Polshin will have himself a base hit. So I mentioned that Polshin had the longest hits of anybody on the Riptide this season. And every time I talk, I don't think I'm hitting very well. Yesterday, or on Friday, he was one of our players of the game. We wanted to talk to him. He hit his first triple of the year and drove in 2. And I said, "Hey man, do you think you're hitting well at this point?" He said, "No, I just haven't quite had the season I was hoping for." So that goes to show he thinks very highly of himself. He's very competitive. Here's a hard line drive out into right field. Nice job by Polshin, attacking the first pitch he sees, and they'll now put 2 on with actually nobody out for Cooper Ewell, and Cooper Ewell very good at making contact, just trying to avoid the double play at this point. Well, so continuing on what I was saying about Polshin, just Polshin very competitive, thinks very highly of himself, and expects himself to be one of the best players on every team he's on, and that's seems to be what pushes him to become better, and that's always what you want to be, especially for a major league club. You want somebody who never thinks that they're good enough. That's what made Troy Tulowitzki so great back in the day. That's what made Adrian Gonzalez so great. Jose Reyes, Carlos Beltran. Almost every all-star you could think of, but those guys especially, I've read stuff about them. So the man on second is Jake Polshin. On first stands Logan Polson. Now Cooper Ewell. First pitch he sees. Looked like off speed. Got across the plate, 0-1. Ewell came into today with a very good hit streak. Not a hit streak, sorry, batting average, excuse me. Actually took the game off first game of the series. 321 average on the season, 3 doubles, no triples, no home runs. He's not necessarily a power hitter, but you don't have to be when you're behind the plate. Catcher, one of the most defensive-minded positions on the baseball diamond, and I can guarantee you he is very, very good at defense. You just take a look at the stuff he's been able to do, throwing out more runners than any other Riptide catcher. He's also played third base and second base, spent some time in the outfield even. The 1-1 breaking ball looked like a slider, fell off the table and outside, 2-1. Another thing Ewell is good at is framing. I don't know if he's the best player on the Riptide on it. Every catcher on the Riptide is very, very good at framing. But Ewell, he's been able to work with pitchers very well, and a lot of the umpires will call stuff on the outside corners or inside corners that shouldn't necessarily be strikes, because Ewell, Andrews, and Polshin, and even Sebi, in the limited time we've seen them play, they've been able to just move their glove over slightly right after catching the ball, and that might sway the umpires' opinions every now and then. 2-2 the count after that one was a check swing off the knob of Ewell's bat to the right side. 2 men on, 2 leadoff singles, trying to get at Jorgensen very quickly. The 2-2 swung on and dribbled foul to the right side, just in front of the SoCal Catch bullpen, or dugout, excuse me. I always get confused with that. I always want to say bullpen, dugout. The bullpen is a little bit further down the line on both sides of the baseball diamond. The dugout, pretty much 90-degree angle to the left of home plate on both sides. Of course, the home team Riptide always down the third base line, the visiting team, in this case the Catch, on the right side. And that's another cool thing I find about this baseball field. Despite always having the nice campus in the background, the flag out in left center, we even have some viewers out beyond left field, is the design of it actually helps the Riptide or Concordia University when it's college baseball season. The 3-2 is down low, and Cooper Ewell will take a leisurely stroll on down. Now push the 2 runners to second and third. Bases will be low and out for Mitch Andrews. Andrews hasn't had quite the series he was hoping for. Hitless in the first game, but he has a good opportunity to drive in a couple of runs and really put the Riptide ahead early. So Andrews digs in, getting ready to face Jorgensen. The 7 spot. Andrews has pretty much seen his time in the 5, 6, and 7 spots of the lineup. First pitch he sees, low and away, 1-0. Mitch Andrews, you take a look at how tall he is, you take a look at his girth, and you think he's not necessarily a power hitter, but he's actually one of the strongest members of the Riptide. I mean, his sleeves are pretty long, but if you ever get a good look at his biceps, it blows you away. It makes you want to go to the gym and curl irons. The 1-0, outside, 2-0. That's what you call country strong, everybody. He's from Texas. He can handle the heat very well. You got a couple players from Texas on the Riptide. But at this point, you want players from the South or who have endured stuff like this or even warmer temperatures. Because when it gets to uncomfortable temperatures like we saw in Pasadena earlier in the year, they say it's nothing like the stuff we see in Texas. The 2-0, slider breaks outside, 3-0. And all of a sudden, Andrews, he can afford to be very, very patient at the plate. Wait for his exact pitch. He loves that pitch just slightly up in the zone and in. The 3-0, high and outside corner, 3-1. Waiting on deck, Paul Gomez. Man on third, Polshin. Polson at second, Yule at first, excuse me. The 3-1 delivery from Jorgensen. Swung on and popped to the right side. Looked like it might be play. The first baseman giving chase, and he is not going to get there in time. Fisher about 5 feet away from the ball. He could have stuck his glove out, but I don't think it would have mattered. Count runs full, so from 3-0 to 3-2, Jorgensen doing a good job of fighting back in this one. I was talking to Andrews before the first game of this series. We were talking about how hot he was before he had to take a couple games off due to a family issue. And he said, well, I mean, I had to start getting hot. I started off the season 1 for 14. I said, well, you've definitely made up for it. And he says, well, I think I'll make up for it when I get a hit or two in the playoffs. That really driving the run. Andrew should expect to see some playing time in the playoffs. Should they make the playoffs? They haven't clinched just yet. Their magic number is at 4. 1-2, and the Arroyo Seco Saints have lost one since the first game of the series when I said their magic number was 7. Andrews fouled that one off. Count is still full. Here he lines this one out into left field, but right at the left fielder, Robbins. Tagging will be Polshin. The throw to second is going to double up Polson just barely, but Polshin does come across the score. That's exactly what you want to do from Andrews, and Andrews shaking his head a little bit, but you can see he's smiling also. Can't be too upset about that one. You make hard contact, you line it, and you just get unlucky every now and again. That's how you know that you're getting out of a slump or that you're continuing a hot streak. You're just getting a little bit unlucky, hitting hard to the left fielder, right fielder, or hard ground balls that seem to find the gloves of the third baseman and shortstop every now and again. So Andrews gets the first RBI, 1-0, the Riptide lead. They've got 3 hits already. Of course, Cortina, he's been perfect through the first 2. There's 2 outs and only 1 man on. Cooper Ewell at first. Ewell tries to take second. The throw down is in time, but it gets through the glove of the second baseman, Toby Johnson. Doesn't get into center field, so Ewell has no chance to take third, but that does put a man in scoring position with 2 outs, and the count's only 1-1. Gomez sort of filled that role player position for the Riptide very nicely. First man off the bench, it seems like, on the infield. Newest member of the University of Missouri Tigers. So another SEC member from the Riptide. He'll join everybody from Texas Tech, Texas, Arkansas, even the University of Georgia. That's Will Proctor. Ewell does have good speed. You don't usually see it from the catcher position, but Ewell, 7 stolen bases his freshman year as a catcher at LMU. He's had multiple for the Riptide this season. The 1-2 pitch inside, looked like a two-seam fastball, started on the inside corner and trailed to the back foot of Gomez. 2-2, the deuces are wild, 2 balls, 2 strikes, 2 outs, and a man on second. Gomez, the 2-2, grounded to the third baseman Ortiz, and he bobbles it. He's not going to be able to get it. And now the shortstop gets it. What a spectacular base running and heads-up defensive play there, but this time the Riptide come away with the lady luck. So what happened there was the ball clicked off the glove of the third baseman Ortiz, but right to Shea Whitcomb, the shortstop. Ewell saw that it got off the glove of Ortiz, started heading to third. Whitcomb knew that Gomez was fast, knew he didn't have a chance to get him at first, so started racing towards third. The three of them raced. Ewell slid. Whitcomb tried to tag, but Ewell just got in there in time. Here Williams swings at the first pitch he sees, flies it out to the right fielder Seminaris, who makes the catch for the final out. So they leave 2 men on, but a run does come across. Mitch Andrews with the RBI sacrifice fly. Riptide are up 1-0 in the top of the third on the Orange County Riptide Network. Stay tuned. So the SoCal catch, they return out to the batter's box, trying to face Juan Cortina, who is yet to allow a runner on, only through 2 though. It's the first baseman, Tyler Fisher. Fisher comes into today, .220 average for the catch in his 6 games played, only 2 RBIs. First pitch he sees is low and outside, 1-0. Fisher, first baseman, catcher. He spent some time at third base as well. Those are normally the power positions, and Fisher not necessarily a power hitter. The reason they keep him in the lineup, his great glove. You should have seen him in the first game of the series behind the plate. So many pitches were in the dirt, and so many times the ball would squirt away from him just barely. And really, looking back on it, you think a lot of those pitches Should have gotten even farther away or even to the backstop every now and again. But more or less, Fisher limited the running game as best he could and really kept that game much closer than it should have been, despite the Riptide committing 6 errors and allowing 5 unearned runs. If it wasn't for Fisher, that game could have got out of hand quickly. Of course, the Riptide won that game 9-8. The 2-2. Check swing that he held up. Fisher in good control. Count runs full. So Cortina, first full count he's seen. The payoff pitch. Down low, Fisher will head on down to first. First walk and first base runner for the catch in this one. So Fisher draws the full count walk. That's going to bring up Kyle Soria, who is behind the plate today. Soria will bat with 1 man on and no one gone. Soria comes in today with a 63 average. He does have a home run, though. That's only in CCL play. Across all facets of baseball action this summer, he's batting 125, so he's done a little bit better against non-league competition. The 1-0 delivery from Cortina, up high with a fastball, 2-0. Seems like the catch being a little bit more patient here in the third, not swinging at stuff that's out of the strike zone. In fact, Fisher didn't swing until he saw the first strike. This is actually a technique I've heard a couple of managers tell their team to use. And it's more at the lower levels, but I have seen it in the upper levels as well. The 2-0 pitch is on the outside corner, 2-1. And that is, you're not allowed to swing unless it's exactly your pitch until you see the first strike. Now, a lot of players do that on their own. Marco Scudero for the Giants and the A's and the Rockies did that for a while. The most patient hitters across all facets of baseball play love to do that, but of course, there are players who don't like to do that. Will Proctor, Jackson Williams, and Joey Parente, a couple of the players on the Riptide who don't do that. Parente swings at he tells me before every game, I'm going to swing at the first pitch if it's a strike, every time. The 2-2. Dribbled straight back, fouled off the end of the bat. 2-2, the count remains. Still no hits for the catch. I'm not trying to say that Cortina will get a no-hitter. That'd be highly unlikely, but it would be fantastic, wouldn't it? Be quite the game to call. 2-2 the count to Soria. He lines this one out into right field, and there we go. Couldn't call it. Fisher is going to try to take third, but he holds back up. Shaw has a good arm in right. He's been able to show that off a couple of times. There was a game not too long ago where Shaw was in left and was able to throw out a runner at home from deep left field down the line. And it wasn't the slowest runner. He was no slouch on the base paths. So 2 men on and no one out for the bottom of the lineup, Nate Pacoda. Nate Pacoda hasn't had himself quite the season he was hoping for. But he is an artist in center field. One of the best fielders in all the CCL. Here he shows bunts and fouls it straight back into the chain link fence. Something about Pacoda, the player that Pacoda is, he's faced a lot of adversity because of his inability to achieve a lot of success at the plate this year. But Pacoda, one of the most confident guys you'll see on the catch, he doesn't let anything get to him. Nice play by Polshin at first, coming in on the bunt. Polshin being a little bit risky there, hoping that Pacoda didn't have the skills to bunt down the third base line. He stayed back. Polshin came in blistering, knew he was going to get it, saw that the runner at second, Fisher, wasn't very fast and just threw on to third. So the sacrifice bunt does not work. They get the lead runner, and it's going to be the same situation, but now with 1 out. So Graham Robbins, last time he was up, grounded out to Jackson Williams at second. First pitch he sees is a breaking ball. It's 0-1. Robbins had a little injury scare earlier in the year, and he hurt his finger. He's from UNLV, but a couple games ago he came in as a pinch runner, and that was good news for the catch team. Robbins, one of the most consistent hitters on the catch, came in as a pinch runner in the first game. So he's been slowly worked his way back into the lineup since that injury. Of course, came in as a pinch runner his first game back, then came in as a pinch runner earlier on in the game and took some at-bats as well, and now here in the starting lineup for the final game of the series. 2-1 is the count right now. The 2-1 pitch, a fastball at the top of the zone, 2-2. Yesterday's game, Tanner Murphy started for the Riptide. He picked up 8 strikeouts in 7 strong innings. Riptide scored 4 times in the 6th, and that would have been enough to beat the catch. Final score 6-3. Chris Vargas, of course, the opposite starter for the SoCal Catch. He was an all-star this year for the South. The UC Irvine Anteater. Had himself a pretty good outing as well. Murphy and Vargas went toe-to-toe. There's a walk to Robbins. That'll load the bases with only 1 out for Toby Johnson. But that game was decided by a bases-clearing, you heard that right, 3 RBI double by Connor Beck in the 6th, part of that 4-run 6th. And that game put them to 8 wins straight. So now Marcus Pointer, the pitching coach for the Riptide, going to go out and talk to Cortina. He's got to be not too happy with what he's seeing in this top of the 3rd. He saw 2 very strong innings of Cortina really controlling the pace of the game. He was only at 19 pitches through the first 2 innings. But here, he's walked 1, allowed a single, and walked another. So Toby Johnson, home run in the first game of the series, a long home run, hit the netting out beyond right field. It was down the right field line. And Parente, who was playing right field, you could tell off the bat, Parente took 2 steps to his right and then just didn't even bother. He knew it was out from the very beginning. First pitch to Johnson, fastball outside corner, 0-1. The 0-1 pitch. Fastball, pretty much the same spot, but this time a little bit off the edge of the plate. 1-1. Of course, Cortina here looking for the double play. Shortstop Gomez lined up in double play position. Williams seems to be in his normal spot, maybe expecting Johnson to pull a little bit, but this time he fouls it off to the left side. 1-2, Cortina's ahead. 1-0, the Riptide lead. And 1 run came in the bottom of the 2nd. A sacrifice fly by Mitch Andrews. Drive in Jake Polshin. Could have been a bigger inning, but Logan Polson got a little bit tied up. Saw the line drive by Andrews, didn't expect it to be caught, and then got doubled up on second. The 1-2 swung on and missed by Johnson. So Cortina comes back from the 2 walks and puts away Toby Johnson to put 2 away and make it much more difficult for the Catch to score here. Shea Whitcomb got the first game off of the series, but yesterday was in the lineup for the Catch. First pitch, fastball at the knees, 0-1. The 0-1 delivery. Swung on and fouled to the left side, 0-2. So Cortina, after getting that visit from Marcus Pointer when the bases were loaded, seemingly back on track. Seemingly back to his form we saw in the first 2 innings, where he was mixing up his elevation and part of the plate, mixing up his pitches. but really relying on that fastball at the same time. Here, he gets Whitcomb to fly it out to the center fielder Fletcher, who barely has to move to make the catch for out number 3. So a nice job by Cortina. Got through some stress. If you ever watch the show Bar Rescue, that would be what they call a stress test. Gets through it without any runs coming across. Still a 1-0 lead for the Riptide. We'll be right back on the OC Riptide Network. Stay tuned. So we've been through 2.5. It's the bottom of the third for Tate Shaw. Tate Shaw, the leadoff man today, coming in for Joey Parente. First time up, he struck out looking on 3 pitches. Swung at the first pitch he saw and missed. And he swung and fouled, and then he looked and got caught looking. First pitch he sees this time, a 2-seam fastball that stays outside, 1-0. Shaw's had himself quite a series, multiple runs scored. He's got a couple of hits as well. Hasn't been the leadoff spot, and we'll see if he's comfortable in that position, if he can prove himself here today. He fouled that one off. It's 1-1 now. The 1-1 pitch. Looked like another 2-seam fastball would have been outside, but it gets fouled off the end of the bat. Nice job by Shaw trying to make contact, 1-2. Hayden Jorgensen. So, you know what? I realized something. I promised you guys something about Hayden Jorgensen as Shaw pops this one up just barely out the outside of the infield. The shortstop Whitcomb moving to his left makes the catch for out number 1. Something I saw about Hayden Jorgensen was that most of these players, in fact I'd say about 90% of the players in the CCL want to be baseball players and they're looking to get drafted by MLB teams. A couple of them have earlier in the season. It caused a lot of good players to have to leave their teams early on in the summer. Eric Wagaman got drafted by the Yankees in the 13th round. He had to leave the Riptide. But Jorgensen, he actually wants to become a math teacher. That's not something you see every day. And hey, we need more good math teachers because I was fortunate enough to have those and I ended up loving math. But of course my brother, not the same. And I think a good math teacher can create a lot of bright futures for a lot of good students. 2-0 is the count right now to Greenfield, who leads the team in walks. The 2-0 pitch is grounded to the third baseman Ortiz, and he olays it there, lets it go past his glove. Looked more like a matador than a catchman out there. Just sort of flashed his glove and was hoping it would find its way in there. Maybe a tricky hop as it got off the grass and onto the dirt. But Greenfield is going to find his way on after the E5. And that's going to bring up the 3-spot Dominic Fletcher. And he's always dangerous. You always want to put him up there with nobody on base. First pitch to Fletcher. Check swing. Didn't want to swing in it, but he went around to 0-1. And Jorgensen, Azusa Pacific. He's actually a Azusa Pacific family. He's an associate dean At Azusa, he was an associate dean at Azusa, played baseball at Biola. And his mother, Danielle Jorgensen, was actually the Cougars women's basketball coach for 8 years, and she's now a professor at Azusa Pacific. So the two of them, born and bred in Southern California, they got athletics in their blood. Great family. Aaron Greenfield on first. He takes off. Fletcher swings and fouls it into the Riptide bullpen. A couple of the pitchers had to duck out of the way there on that one. So Greenfield will head back to first. 1-2 is the count out of Fletcher. Fletcher's first time up, he hit a single. It was the first base hit of the contest for either team, and he promptly got thrown out trying to take second. Greenfield is on first after the error by Ortiz at third. There's only one out, but the count is 1-2. The 1-2 pitch, fastball up high, 2-2. You know, I always talk about how the high fastball is the pitch I like to go to in 2-strike counts because it looks so good to the hitter. Fletcher has almost never swung at a fastball above the zone. I don't know how he does it, but when you hit 374 in CCL play, a lot of it has to do with your ability to read the zone well. The 2-2 pitch was low and away, 3-2. Meanwhile, Greenfield took second, so that's a stolen base. Fletcher tied for the team lead in RBIs, of course leading the team in home runs, triple more than that of second place David Miranda. But David Miranda is tied with him in RBIs with 24 apiece. Full count pitch. Swung on and fouled off to the left side into the empty parking lot. 3-2, the count remains. So Fletcher digs back in, getting ready to do the second take of this full count. Pitch is inside. Fletcher will head on down to first, and the catch, not too happy about that one. You could hear it from the dugout. That's going to put 2 on for Jake Polshin. Polshin, one of the friendliest guys on the Riptide team. Houston Baptist, also very honest. He told me a story about earlier on in the season, one of our pitchers, I can't remember who it was, he told me though, but one of our pitchers threw 2 strikes to a batter and that he knew were balls, and he still manned for the Riptide, so he waited till after the at bat, but then he turned around to the umpire and told him, hey, those were balls. I'm just sort of blocking your view. And for the rest of the game, the umpire did not call a strike in that location ever again. So Polshin, very honest. It didn't cost the Riptide the game. They won. It just goes to show what kind of man he is. Very sportsmanship. Very favoring of sportsmanship manners. And the 0-2 is swung on and missed by Polshin, so Jorgensen gets Polshin. First strikeout of the game for Jorgensen. Comes in the third. Now there's 2 out, still 2 men on for Logan Polshin. So Logan Polshin, 1 for 1 on the day, singled back in the second, would eventually be a part of the reason why Polshin would come around to score on the sacrifice fly by Andrews. First pitch seen by Polshin is a fastball on the outside corner, 0-1. The lefty Polshin digs back in. He's got Greenfield at second and Fletcher at first. Big hole on the left side. Shortstop Whitcomb playing very close to the bag at second, and the third baseman Ortiz pretty much playing down the line. Meanwhile, on the other side of the diamond, you see Fisher and Johnson pretty much covering that hole. There's a decent-sized gap in the middle of the field as well. It would have to be on the right side of second base, though. 0-2 the count. Polshin finds himself in an early hole, the pitch. Swung on, high fastball, fouled off to the left side and behind us as well. Count remains 0-2. This is a very important day for the Riptide. If they can get this 9th straight win, you take a look at the schedule, and actually the Healdsburg Prune Packers and the Neptune Beach Pearl are playing one another today, and of course the Neptune Beach Pearl a game over the Riptide. There's a balk by Jorgensen. That's going to send Greenfield and Fletcher up 90 feet apiece. That's going to put 2 men in scoring position. As I was saying, the Beach Pearl and the Prune Packers playing one another. Of course, the Neptune Beach Pearl first in the conference with a 21-7 record, and the Riptide in 4th with a 20-8 record. Only a game separating 1st and 4th, and that could be huge when it comes to playoff time. The 0-2 inside 1-2. But of course, the Prune Packers only a half game up on the Riptide with a 21-8 record. So